it's supposed to stop and stop looping. What do you think of that selection of music as opposed to Track Tribe?
I think you're trying to elevate the cheese factor of the show there, John.
Hey, well, this track pops up, and this is called Night Driving.
That music is called, oh, this is Night Driving. I don't think I would play this music while I was driving at night. It would probably put me to sleep.
I would say it's perfect night driving when you're in your self-driving Tesla. So,
okay, yes, I'll give. If you're in an autonomous vehicle and you want to take a nap, go ahead and play that.
Wow, that got autonomous vehicle right on our closed captioning. Kind of cool. I don't know. Do I want that picture tonight, or do I want the big picture?
Autonomous or anonymous?
I don't know. I'd have to back up.
Oh, okay. So how's it going, John?
Actually, it spelled both of those words right when you asked that question.
Rock on.
How's it going? Oh, I can't complain. Another what? I don't know. I haven't even looked. Probably 1,000 miles over the last 3 days. All I do is drive and drive. But I got a question for you. And I put my little button on green in my car, and the little gauge basically says how many miles I've gained on that tank of gas because it's being frugal with the gas. Do you believe that?
I don't really believe the gas mileage computer ever. I just don't.
Well, it's not necessarily, I guess, a gas mileage computer, but I don't know. It's telling me I gained 17, 18 miles this week I filled up 3 times because I pay attention to fuel prices, and Northern Alabama is much cheaper than where I'm at, like 30 cents a gallon. So I filled up multiple times while that's where I was in the Huntsville, Tennessee area the last couple of days. So just wondered what you felt. Some people say no, it doesn't do anything. But I know if I drive in sport mode, I sure drop gas mileage. And
well, yeah, I mean, everybody's going to know that if you drive conservatively, you're going to save gas. I mean, driving at 55 to 60 mile an hour for long periods of time uses a lot less gas than driving 90 for that same distance.
Well, I have it programmed for 80 miles an hour. So if I go above 80, it turns off all the green function. But if it's 80 or below, it operates in green function. And of course, I drive like I do, accelerate hard from the stoplights, brake late, all the stuff I do that normally eats up gas. But, the green mode, I can tell the throttle response is a little slower, which is actually scary sometimes. And of course, when I click it into sport mode, it really livens up a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. What do we got here for? We've got Jason and Toby out there.
Wow, bringing in the paint color while he's griping about trying to put in new points. Well, that's a problem. You're trying to put points on a VW. I mean,
I know it's just
not fun.
It's a bitch to get to that distributor behind the radiator in those things.
Moving on.
Soft pastel yellow color.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on beer break. Hey,
I think John's on a beer break too.
Well, wherever my camera is, I'm on a beer break. Look at that. The invisible bottle.
Genius using Rolling Rock. Yeah. Let me use a green bottle.
Well, I actually went to pour it in my iced beer glass, but it looks like I forgot to put the glass back in the freezer when I washed it the last time. But we shouldn't be talking about drinking with literally a glass in a car type show.
We weren't. We were talking about the green color of the bottle, John.
But this is a discussion about color.
That's why we're talking about the green color.
Yes. Good thing I didn't put on a green shirt. I'd just be headless. Be a head bouncing around here and hands. Maybe I'll do that. I'll wear a green shirt. It'll just be a head and hands.
Yeah, you could pull off the Max Headroom thing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That is a computer generated graphic from 85, 86. He used to do Coke commercials and had his own TV show for us.
That was a TV show.
The younger listeners out there.
Mm-hmm.
So robotics.
AI.
So I got onto this topic or thinking about the history of color, and I wanted to go. I'd heard something many years ago, and I wanted to go research it a little bit. And I found a couple articles that kind of pointed and agreed with what my memory was, because we're in this $6 a gallon gas, $4 a gallon gas, depending where you live, $100 a barrel oil, which obviously has no bearing on the price of gas. And slipping into this, they're telling us potential recession with interest rates and that. And I don't want to get political on the show, but brown is a very popular color usually during a recession and leading up to a recession. And a couple of these articles kind of highlight that it's kind of the earth tones. And it really came on big in the mid 70s, late 70s, where brown cars and tan cars and beige cars really began to get popular again. I mean, if we go back to the 40s, I remember a lot of tannish beige cars from there. I can't say much earlier than that, but it seems every time we have a recession, we go to these earth tones. And which one of these? I got too many things highlighted here where PPG was actually predicting that the Browns are going to start making a comeback. And they started to predict that about 2 years ago. And they started to see the trends that those Browns were coming back. And here we are 2 years later. And there's, that's what got me on this topic of discussing color. And then some of the research I came across just totally contradicts what you get told at the car dealerships. But what's your thoughts? That's how I got on this topic of color and wanted to go down this road.
Well, I mean, obviously, color is an interesting part of automotive history, and the color cars are painted in different decades, different generations, whatever you want to say, can be a direct reflection. Reflection. Yeah, if you get a good paint job, of whatever's going on in society and culture at the time. So, we see it after World War I and World War II, where brighter colors start showing up on cars because we're in this happy-go-lucky feeling, in society and culture, especially in America, right? I mean, after World War II, we get into the 1950s and we see the pastel craze because everybody's life's great, life's good, the war is over, the economy's doing pretty good, everything's going, Pleasantville. We moved from black and white of the war to this amazing world of color. And the same thing happens in the 20s after World War I. You start seeing some colors, but so there's that direct tie to the history of the automobile and culture and society. But I also find paint extremely interesting due to just the conservation in transportation collections and understanding paint history and the paint techniques that were used through the different generations, and understanding all of that, because as we, in the museum field, as we conserve cars and preserve them, we have to understand the paints and what's happening to them and all of that. So anytime we talk about paint and color, I'm happy, John. I don't care if it's
Well,
brown and black. I'll still be happy.
well, you don't think, that you were talking, say, after World War I, cars became brighter and colors started to appear a lot more. Henry Ford by then was painting cars in multiple colors again.
Well, let's not say that though, because don't forget that the late 1800s and early 1900s, the paint was not as good, but they had some bright colors.
Well, we
I
were
mean,
going to get
there
to
are some intensely bright yellows, things like that early on. But
stay focused on the decades that we're at, and we're going to get back to that.
no, I'm working on my ADHD, John.
Oh, I took my Adderall a little bit late today, so I'm going to be very productive till about 3 in the morning. But in the 20s, didn't we started to develop the bright color paints, and that Duco paint debuted in 23, and the colors actually lasted. The colors before that kind of had a tendency to fade. It's just the paint technology got better. And by the end of World War II, we started to go back to bright colors. but metallics were just slowly being introduced. And American metallics used aluminum flakes, and European metallics used fish scales. Did they not? Can't remember what the fish was.
Yeah, the earliest metallic paints tended to be fish scale, and I think it was it. I want to say it was herring scales.
I think it was that, but it was a ridiculous. It was like 30 or 40,000 scales to make a.
I think it was 30 to 40,000 fish, 30 to 40,000 herrings to make a certain amount of paint, metallic paint.
That's the bold and bright days that you were just talking about. Peacetime, wartime. We get colors. There's Tuco.
Yes, 30 to it took on average 30 to 40,000 herring to create 1 kilo of paint. So 1 kilogram of.
I wonder what that translates to. A cup?
No, I hope not.
2.5 pounds of paint. That's really not a lot.
Probably not. Probably not.
Toby says fish scales. We used to save them off the fish pump and sell them to the paint companies.
I mean, I knew Toby was old, but I didn't know he was that old.
I'll say, hi, Dana. We haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. Guess Jason, I'm not going to accuse him.
No.
See here.
So where were we on paint? So we got metallics coming out. Where were we headed with that?
Well, I was just talking. You were talking that the vibrant colors appeared after the wars, but like all innovations and such, war develops new things. And I don't know if war created these colors and that, but just again, after World War I, bright colors came about that lasted. After World War II, more bright colors came about because of, like I said, the metallics and some changes in paint formulations and applications. And then go back to the 20s. They figured they improved drying times in that, which I'm sure is a result of the war, is being able to paint a vehicle, get it to dry fast, and go on. So I'm saying, yeah, the paints came around maybe at a key time, but I'm thinking that it's kind of odd because I don't want to say that we didn't come out and we were all yay, and it's the roaring 20s and the baby booming 40s and 50s, and we were all bright and lively. But I think the technology had something to do with it because it was new technology, and we always want new technology.
Well, it does, yeah. And I mean, these things obviously are developed, and as war is great for economy, right? I mean, the war, World War I, World War II, more so World War II, World War I, a little bit because America got involved much later in the war, but it always improves economy because your factories are producing goods, they're selling to the government. I mean, it's all driving industry, and especially World War II, one of the greatest technology booms in the world, probably since the Industrial Revolution. The ability to design, engineer, and build the things that were built during World War II and come up with some of the processes that were created is just incredible what happened during that time period. But that also, I think, leads to the happy-go-lucky feeling, right? I mean, you have a society that has just come out of war, and especially in America, your industry has led the way in new technology. I mean, you're damn proud of yourselves, right? I mean, you're wanting to celebrate. So I think it does factor into it. And yes, I mean, a lot of the developments that happened are what led to these various technological developments.
And what I want to say that, I don't know, just poof, it all went away. Did you guys see it run out of my ears or something?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was going to slide it back to, we're going to go backwards in time here a little bit. Because that's kind of where you want to go. One of the most famous quotes I absolutely hate because it makes people, because of the quote, people seem to be extremely misinformed. And that's Henry Ford. You can have it any color you want as long as it's black when it comes to the Model T. How many years was that true, Derek?
That's a crapshoot.
12.
Technically, sometime around the mid 1914 production until 1925. So for only about 10 to 11 years.
And the Model T was produced for 20?
1909 to 1927, so 18 years.
So it's not a little over half its life, but Seems when
It
people
was
see,
what they don't understand is it was a quote from the time period of the moving assembly line. Well, Ford Motor Company still was the leading market sales auto manufacturer in the United States. That's what people have to understand. Henry said that when he was on top. And yes, he was only painting Model Ts black. It actually started out in when they started working on the moving assembly line, late 12 playing around and then through 13, actually the color that they had that would dry quicker and that they were already using was the dark blues. And so the dark blues just consistently got darker and darker and darker until all of a sudden it was just black. I mean, they just moved it to black and that was the end. But there are actually very early 1914 Model Ts that, if you actually inspect them, unrestored original paint cars, that the pigment is actually an extremely dark blue that they created.
yeah, and by the time they went to the black, if I'm correct, it sort of became more of a little bit asphalt based paint because it dried quicker, and that was the
Right.
whole thing, is to turn cars, turn cars, turn cars. And again, technology. It was the drying time. That's why it was only available in black. He wouldn't have cared. Model Ts could have been bright yellow if you could have got the damn paint to dry in, the same amount of time or less. So
Yeah. And in reality, the dry time was only a little bit, it wasn't that much of a window shorter, but it was just shorter. It was quicker to dry, slightly quicker to dry, but the big thing was you didn't have to stop the assembly line. You didn't have to, even today. Well, today they're getting to a point where they can do it a lot easier, but back then, if you were doing all your touring car bodies in red, well, you had to send a batch of touring cars in red through the paint line. And then if the runabout was coming through and that was going to be green, well, we got to stop and we got to change all the equipment out to spray green and we got to reload everything to green. And there was also the downtime of changeovers. And that's something we don't have today because the new paint systems in factories today, they have multiple paint guns. They have robots that just switch out. I mean, the moment's notice. You can send the new paint shop at the Corvette plant. I got the opportunity to see that. And they don't have to do cars anymore in, oh, here's 5 blue ones, here's 5 white ones, here's 5, bodies in these colors. They can switch every car to a different color because of the way the new systems work. Back then, no, no. You had to shut down the line, you had to switch everything out in the paint system and then keep moving. And in the earliest days in 09 and through say 12, the bodies had to sit and dry. They had to paint them and then put them up at Highland Park. Fantastic facility. But there literally was one level that was just the body storage for the bodies as they were drying.
So I'm going to slide it back a little bit more to where you wanted to and go 1900 or so. Even prior to that, bright colors were in.
Mm-hmm.
Only lasted a year or two before they would fade or something. But then again, cars were toys for the rich, so they would just repaint them. They weren't practical everyday devices. Literally, they were toys. And it just, as technology went along and technology went along, we got a little bit better. We got a little bit better. Bright colors, fabulous colors. I want to jump up now. I want to jump 50 years into the future, but
well, before
go
we
ahead
go
and
there,
talk about. So go ahead and talk about 1900s, there, Derek.
Yeah, before that, I mean, and anybody that is a student of history, all you have to do is think back to look at the items they have pulled out of the Egyptian tombs around the pyramids, and the things that have been sealed up inside those tombs, and the bright colors. Humankind has been playing with pigment and creating color since the days of the cavemen, and we are enthralled by color. I mean, it's a uses one of our most important senses, which is vision, and helps us to understand things. And that's a lot of people think that, and probably because of the Model T, that all antique cars were dark colors. They had dark black and dark black. Wow. Um, they had black and they had dark blue and everything was just dark. And even some of the early Ford cars that were red, okay, they were a red color. Everybody knows they were red. There are Ford early, I mean, talking about 1903 Model A's, things like that, that people have painted almost a deep maroon color. And it's red. And there was one that was this dark of a color back in the 1960s. It had to be the original color. Um, yeah, but you have to understand the paints of that time aged. They darkened, they yellowed. So a bright red, after being exposed to UV and oxidation, becomes a maroon color because they didn't have the protective clear coats and the different products that we have now to preserve those colors. They were using essentially the same processes that I mean, on carriages and automobiles that you would have seen used on beautifully painted wood furniture inside a house. And of course, that wood furniture is going to stay beautiful as long painted, the painted portions, so long as it's not sitting in front of a window where UV is coming in. But now you have an automobile that spends a good portion of its life running around outside in the sun and the environment in general, and it degrades the paint surface. It's going to oxidize, it's going to get UV damage, all these things. It's going to change the color. So that's why we have to be very careful. And Colin was going to back me up on this, I'm sure. When we're studying early automobiles or early carriages or anything, and we're looking at original paint, we have to factor in the age to that paint, the oxidation, the UV damage. And there's actually some of the big car or big paint companies, and I know Sherwin-Williams has done this in the past on cars because I know one of the cars that was restored and used the process. They actually found original paint, took it off, and did the microscopy on it and ran it through their systems to actually determine how much UV damage had happened and recreate the pigment color prior to UV damage. So the car could be painted the correct color, not the darker tone that the UV and oxidation had caused. Sorry, I just went on a really long rant, John.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I've got a big clock I want to buy, but it's going to be a surprise. I'm got a new studio coming, and it'll go in the new studio. This big thing behind us. It's not like the little clock in the right hand or left hand corner of the screen.
Just don't let it be digital. Can we get a really cool analog? Like, what we need? We need one of the chess clocks, and we just got to slap it every time we go on a rant.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
figure that one out.
Oh yeah, and Toby, 100%. Actually, I was looking at I was at the Cincinnati Concours. Sorry, Toby's. I keep forgetting that this is an audio podcast, and I just get rolling on this video and comment thing. Toby talks about the fact that didn't they varnish over the early paints on carriages and automobiles, and yes, they did. And there was a fantastic shocked high wheeler, Cincinnati built high wheeler at the Cincinnati Concours, completely original. This thing is untouched. I took a ton of pictures of it, detailed pictures, because the varnish coat, you can see where it's alligatored and shrunk back. And then the big thing is, and some of the ways cars are restored today is inaccurate. Those cars had a lot of it might be a red. This was in fact a red car with very thick black highlighting on the body beads, and then actually a yellowish gold pinstripe. And some restorers would tape off where the black's going to go. They'll paint the red, then they'll take off and they'll paint the black. This one, you could see where the black had shrunk back with the varnish, and you saw the original red coat underneath. And I mean, it's those details that help us understand how the cars were built and designed and painted over time. So I took a ton of pictures of them. And if I would actually be on the ball and send these pictures to John when I know I'm going to talk about them, he'd be able to put them up on the screen.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here going, we're talking about paints and that, and unfortunately, I still have your book here I got to send you before we talk about the car and carriage caravan museum. But they have a car there. It's a 25 Rolls Royce that was ordered by Rudolph Valentino. And you look at it, and it looks like the paint's just cracked and split and like, what the heck? but it was intentionally done like that. I guess Valentino may have passed away before the car was ever delivered to him, but it looks alligator. And the idea was to make it kind of look like a leather covered steel body. And just, we always have been trying to do crazy stuff with paints. Different things, different graphics. I hate the fact that two-tone paints have pretty much disappeared. And I think it's nice to have it. My F-150 was a two-tone truck. And that's about the only place you ever see two-tone in. Excuse me. But throughout history, up until, I don't want to say recent, but last 20 years or so, I think we have been exciting with our colors. Look at the colors Chrysler offered in the early 70s. The Ford colors. You got grabber blue, and you've got I can't think of the purple color that Chrysler called their purple. But and now we've come to, and Jason asked a little bit ago,
Plum Crazy, is that the one you're looking
yeah,
for?
that's it, Plum Crazy. Yep. Jason asked a little bit ago, why are all Teslas white? My question is, why are damn near all cars white? 29% of the cars sold in 2018 in the U.S. were white.
I can tell you why.
2019, 28% of them were. Worldwide, 39% of the cars were painted.
I can tell you why.
Well, there's one reason, but go ahead. What's your reason? You seem like you're excited to talk about that reason.
Has anybody gone outside and gotten in their car over the last week? Especially if it's a black one or a dark colored one? You might as well just step inside your oven.
Yeah, but have you ever driven a white car with a lot of snow around you where it just kind of disappears?
No, but I grew up in Michigan, and yes, that is very true, because all the white cars, you always disappeared, and you always had to look a lot harder in the winter to make sure you weren't pulling out in front of someone.
When my dad started buying corporate vehicles for his business, he loved fire engine red. Big Dodge four-wheel drive pickup, bright red, vans, bright red, to the point Chrysler did it until 1984. It ended in 1984. And I think one of the last vehicles they did was a Dodge 600 ES turbo convertible. They painted for a lady, and they painted it plum crazy. They would pull your car off the line if you wanted to for a slight upcharge and paint it. And my dad would have them pull, if I remember correctly, now, that's years ago. If I remember correctly, I know it was 83 Dodge van was pulled off the line and painted red. And when he went and got an 85, they wouldn't do that. And he had to go to white vehicle. But I forgot where I was going with that. Nope. Jeez, it's not a very good night for my memory. It might be that Earl. I should be staying focused on this stuff.
Well, if you can access your your email account, John, I sent a couple pictures over of that paint surface. If you get them, and you can put them up, but you don't have to. I understand.
I just got to go to the monitor that's got that and see if it wants to tell me it came in.
500 monitors.
Yeah, just
the no driving gloves control center.
And I got to figure out which email you actually sent them to.
2 different ones. That way I knew you'd get them.
Download.
But paint technology, I mean, while you're doing that, I can certainly jump in. And, modern paint technology is very interesting, and where things are headed. Just seeing what is capable even some of the playing around with electrically charged particles in paint to allow them to change colors. And I think Jason mentioned one of the new chameleon colors that are out, and there's some amazing colors coming out that, just what I would call, the flip-flop paints that as they move in the sun, they'll change color. And, I think we're having such a technological boom with everything that's kind of happening that who knows what's going to happen with paint colors. And even where, and it gets a little off paint color. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but just the amazing abilities of what they're doing with vinyl wraps to create colors and the things that can be done with that. Again, don't want to talk deep into that because we're talking paint and paint processes and colors here. But
we did have a commenter, though, mention something about vinyl wraps, and we have had two episodes in our past, No Driving Gloves, that did cover. We touched on vinyl wraps. We really need to sit down and do a really solid show about vinyl wraps, because not only is it colors, it's textures, and I mean, you can get like a velvet type wrap. You can wrap your car, so it seems like carpeting the exterior of your car. And of course, the metallics and the reflective surfaces. And
I'm not sure. I just noticed Colin's comment on Ruxton, and it was very out of place. But and I'm guessing I know why he said it, because I don't think I mentioned Ruxton. But and maybe his favorite is the same as mine. But there is a Ruxton out there. Actually, all Ruxtons were painted very interesting. The one of the sedans, well, more than one. It's like 2 or 3 of the sedans were actually horizontally striped. Just look up Ruxton. It's going to be amazing. But my personal favorite Ruxton is actually one of the convertibles, and it's an incredibly beautiful, almost lavender pink purple tone. It's I don't know what they called it, but almost kind of an amaranth color, which also takes me back to my Crawford days, because the Studebaker Garford that was built for Mrs. Potter Palmer, it was 2 colors of purple, a purplish pink, amaranth and heliotrope, and it's absolutely gorgeous car. And this is that's a 1908, if I recall correctly, 1978 Studebaker Garford in these 2 amazingly, pink purple tones. And yeah, I mean, it's just there's Ruxton, another car company that just went all out in the late 20s with color.
Well, while you were doing that, I moved your photos.
There it is. Look at that.
For the audio listeners, I'm sorry. Derek forgets that it's hard to show these pictures while you're.
I've already described these pictures. Alligator finish.
I guarantee you didn't use 1,000 words to describe them, and that would be 2,000 words, because there's 2,000 pictures.
If you want me to, I could.
Yeah, I know you could. Go back to the clock conversation.
But that's just a really great example of original paint and how it ages over time, because they didn't have the ability to do what we do today. It was the best technology they had.
Well, we'll go with the color revolution beginning. I tried to jump ahead, but GM started to send people to worldwide and like the auto shows in Paris and that, to see what was happening elsewhere paint wise, and to pay attention to colors and the design. And that's about the same time. I want to say we probably ended up. When did Harley Earl really start? I have a feeling that might have been one of his. But
when did Harley Earl start? What do you mean by when did he start? I mean, he started in the early 1900s with his dad at the Earl Automobile Works.
Well, I mean, kind of his influence in design with GM, and he started to take his solid position with them.
Well, that was 1927, 28 that they bring. He was contracted to bring out the new LaSalle, and then that was such a success. They hired him, and he came in and created. Again, I've mentioned this on the show. It was not designed when it started. Do you remember what the actual name of Harley's division was when it started? It ties right into tonight. It was the Art and Color Studio, the Art and Color section of General Motors.
And that's exactly where I was going with that, is that it, where I guess probably where they started to realize the colors and things coming out and changes, and these panels started to influence car colors and that. And then by the time the 50s hit, cars were colorful. You still had your blacks, but I'm trying to think. I know the Chrysler 300C was white. It seems that there were so many. It doesn't seem like we had the propensity to have white cars. We had some silvers, and we had some blacks, and we had whites, and we had reds, and we had yellows, and we had blues, and it was a nice gambit. It wasn't this 40% white, are 30% white, which I also will say leans to corporate vehicle purchases. A lot of corporate vehicles get purchased white, and that helps bump that number up a little bit. But then black and gray, follow next. And here I am talking, and I have a white silver car, which is actually a paint color. Kind of looks like reminds me of the pearl that Lexus used on the original LS 400s. But as we got into the 60s, and this is I wanted to find a picture of this car, a good picture, and it's impossible to find. But the Beatles Bentley, which actually the Barber Museum owns now, and it's kaleidoscope of colors, and Janis Joplin's Mercedes, and
Janis Joplin's Porsche.
Porsche, yes, she sung about her Mercedes. I'm not a big Janis Joplin fan. But I think the 60s were exciting, and then we hit the gas recession and we went dull again. And I don't know if we've ever completely come out of it. But was it Toby who mentioned way early in the comments that his dad sold GMs from like 62 to 70, and the brown cars never sold? Well, he was just selling them too early. Come back in 75. 77, they'll start to move. Then I don't know how I want to. And I was guilty of this. There's this new color out, and I don't understand it. It's definitely earth tone. I call it putty. Former host Sean commented back to me this morning on my personal Facebook page. He calls it clear coated primer.
Yep.
And I almost bought a Ford truck in 17. Maybe it was 18. And it was the first time I ever saw that color. And I go, ooh, this is neat. There's not going to be a lot of them because it's kind of an ugly color. Now it seems that's the only color Kia wants to paint a car. Hyundai wants to paint a car.
Now, is this the more cream yellow toned primer, or is this the gray primer one? Because there's both. There's the kind of cream yellowish that looks like your cream yellow high build primers, or there's also the gray that is out there. So I know what
I call it. I would say it's more the gray. It's the putty color. And
okay. Yep.
Brandy and I talk about it all the time. We see it all the time. And how the hell did this become a popular color? It was ugly when I first saw it. And
well, I think what people like about it, and one of the things I like about those colors that are coming out, is they're non-metallic. They're a solid color that has no travel to it. Okay, because that's typically the term that's used with metallics is the travel of the metallic and what it does to the paint. And it's, to me, it's going back to the mid and late 30s, when we had like your gunmetal grays and things like that were just a solid tone gray. There was no metallic, there was no anything else to it, but it just became this solid color that actually looked pretty good.
It when I've really got thinking about it, Hyundai was I think Hyundai was the first major manufacturer to come out with a matte finish car. That was on the Velociter, and I think you could get a matte blue and a matte gray. And there was all kinds of washing instructions and disclaimers that you had to sign, supposedly. I don't know where that really went. But that's what these colors remind me of, is like you said, there is no depth to them. It just is there. And I think that's what it is it's the people's love of matte cars, but an ability to wash and wax them. And can't we get another decent car, something out there? Because what surprised me in doing some research for this show is they say that resale values of vehicles in the rarer colors are actually worth more. Trying to find that breakdown that I had.
So does that mean that my 2019 Malibu in shadow gray metallic is going to be worth more?
No, I think that would be one of the least valuable. I had this somewhere.
Darn.
There we go.
Oh, well.
Let's see if I can make this big enough that my old eyes can read.
Clearly you're not, because you're not reading it yet.
Nope, there we are. Well, it's this stupid. I need to probably subscribe to this site. But average depreciation, they say the average car will depreciate 33.6% after 5 years of ownership. Now, they do say in this article they might disagree with that because they've seen some places where you can see 60% depreciation. Um, it's just whatever, but we're saying the average car depreciates 33.6% in 5 years. If you have a black car, it will actually depreciate 34.4. It's the most depreciation you can get. Gray 34.2, silver 34.0, and so on. However, the car that'll depreciate the least are yellow cars, 26.2%, orange cars at 27.6. And the surprising one to me, green cars at 31.3, because I've always been told that green cars don't sell. Flat period, it's the worst color to have a car in. But do you wonder why, if you're going on Kelley Blue Book to see the value of your car, KBB.com or any of the sites, NADA or Edmunds, they ask you your color of the car because the color does matter.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, beige, brown, and gold are 33.3, blue's 33.6. They're right around that average number, 33.6. So I guess blue and white are average, and beige, brown, and gold are just a touch above average. But it kind of says, everybody go out and buy a yellow car because you're going to have a little bit more money. It's going to be worth a little bit more, maybe. Now, if we get into a huge recession, where will those numbers go? How will that change? Because, much like people didn't want to be seen driving around in, Bugatti Royales and Rolls Royces during the Depression, you don't want to be seen driving around in your flashy yellow Porsche. You would much rather have it probably in that stupid matte putty whatever color.
Old man brown.
One of the most popular colors in Porsche right now, it seems to be chalk white, which is almost the same thing. It's kind of just to me, it's a dull white. You know what chalk looks like? That's what it is. Maybe new chalk when it's kind of shiny. But I just have a hard time with it. I mean, I like colorful cars. I hate white cars. I hate silver cars. I've owned silver cars. My Porsche was silver. The Mini, like I said, is silver white. It's a combination of both. And I've had black, but I really like my blue cars. I talk about it all the time, and I tried to buy it 3 times. They gotta have it green Mustang, that 2014 Roush Mustang I almost bought. I loved it because of the color, because it was a Ford, gotta have it green, and then they did a pearl clear coat over it, and it just popped. It was different, and I see that car occasionally, not as much as I used to. It used to live really close to where I was, but you knew it was that car. Before you saw the little Roush things, it just was a little bit different. And why does everybody want to blend in and be the norm? I was kind of letting you have a chance.
Well, yeah, I mean, you touched on it, right? Because it's that same mentality of, the Depression and things like that, where you didn't want to be seen in a high-end automobile, or especially a town car with your chauffeur driving. Right now with the kind of, what is the word I'm looking for here? With the kind of extreme range of economic standing in our country right now, from the 1%, the wealthiest elite of this country, to the growing number of people living below the poverty level. I'm trying to not get too political here, honestly. I'm not. I think we're in one of those times where people that can afford a nicer car, say, let's even go with something as simple as a Cadillac, or, some of even some of the more affordable Mercedes Benz, the low end Mercedes Benz. There are people out there that are on an income that can afford that, but I don't think they want to stick out, because they know that, there's a lot of difference in our country right now, and a lot of hard feelings with the economy and things that are going on. And I think we're back to that mentality of, I want a nice car, and I want to live that life, and I want to be able to live at my means and what I can do, but I don't want to stick out because of it, right? I don't want to be flashy and loud. I want to just kind of have something nice, but not have it get recognized.
Nah,
Hopefully, I didn't get too political.
I don't know if I agree with you on that one because, I was quickly doing some number searching because I don't think the wealthy care anymore. 11,
Well, I don't think the wealthiest care. I'm talking about those in that lower middle range of wealth that can afford something nice, but they don't want to stick out.
And I think you get them buying a little bit more reserved car, yes, and probably a little bit less in the color. But for $11,430, Porsche will paint your 911 or your 918 any damn color you want, paint to sample. That's how much that one option costs, just shy of $11,500. Mercedes used to offer something similar. I don't know if they still do. The Dodge Viper, in its final years of production, you could have it painted any color you wanted for just a small fee. I can't remember what they said, but there was like 16 million colors you could paint your Dodge Viper, which I think that's probably some guy at Fiat saw, I can produce 16 million colors on my computer. But there are people out there that want that color and to stand out. And I always say that's why damn near every Lamborghini you see is bright orange or bright green or bright blue or bright yellow. You don't buy a Lamborghini to blend in. Now, I know there's black ones out there. I used to know a guy that owned 2 black Lamborghinis, identical, so that, when one was in for service, he could drive the other one, whatever. And there's some white ones and things like that. But when you're buying a Lamborghini, you want it to stick out. When you buy a Ferrari, I don't think red's an in color for Ferrari anymore. It's still a traditional Ferrari color. Look at the new C8 Corvette. How many colors is that offered in right now?
Good question, because they would have changed it up for 2023 model year. But was it maybe about 8 to 10? Jason's probably going to jump in and know the answer right away.
I don't know. Let's see here. This is October 5th, 2021. So this is a little out of date. Let me try this link first. C8 colors 2020, Long Beach red, Sebring orange, Arctic white, ceramic matrix gray, which is probably that gray we're talking about that we don't like.
It very much was.
Blade silver, black, accelerate yellow, shadow gray, torch red, just one of the most popular Corvette colors in history. Rapid blue, Elkhart Lake blue, Zeus bronze,
which doesn't exist anymore.
I saw that color, and that's a good looking car. And for 21, you got Sebring orange, Arctic white, ceramic matrix gray, black, accelerate yellow, shadow gray, torch red, rapid blue, Elkhart Lake blue, Zeus bronze.
So it's about 12.
Red mist and silver flare. And they're expecting amplify orange, caffeine, which I bet's going to be a brown, and hypersonic gray.
Caffeine's been out for a while, and yes, I describe it, and a number of us at the museum described it as Dr. Pepper brown red.
No, I was
like the aluminum
Dr.
can,
red.
Aluminum can, Dr. Pepper red, not plastic label, aluminum can.
No, I was thinking Dr. Pepper itself,
or Dr. Pepper itself.
So even the Corvette owners have an ability to get a flashy color, and I guess I'm seeing a lot of greens, oranges, yellow Camaros out there. Never see a Mustang. Of course, I think Chrysler still offers purple.
I'd say something mean, but I won't.
Purple on their Challengers. But
you're just looking in the wrong place for the Mustang, John. You got to look off the side of the road in the ditch. Sorry, I was going to try to be nice.
That's kind of old. COVID killed the Mustang bashing jokes. I think
trying to bring them back.
I think what happened over COVID, the roads were totally clear, and the Mustang drivers went out and learned how to drive. There was nothing for them to hit. But
we don't have a lot of Mustang owners that listen. So
it's a. How do you know we don't have a lot of Mustang owners? I think Dana's chimed in 2 or 3 times now. Just making sure the comment didn't move. But
silver is the best.
The best?
Yeah.
And
And I want to go back. I want to correct something, Jason, and I'm sure it's just a typo, but he was talking about Richard Earl on Facebook. And he said he posts something every day that his father was working on. Harley was actually his grandfather. So Harley Earl was Richard Earl's grandfather.
Details.
Hey, kind of important details.
I think Toby stopped drinking and he got the points adjusted on the VW.
Well, look at that. What a great way to end the show.
Well, I was going to say Dana there with the silver with tinted windows. I just think tinted windows look good on just about anything. So, man, if there's a window tint guy out there, I had a buddy who was supposed to do my Mini right after I bought it. Still not done. I need to get those things tinted because that's like Derek was saying. We've swung around to the beginning of the show with points on the VW, and then kind of early on in the show where we were talking white colors. My car gets so damn hot during the day. I was going to say something about the air conditioning, but then I'd go off on home air conditioners. But
oh Lord, we don't need that.
So that's a little conversation about color. If you want us to get more into it, but that's kind of how we bounce around, give you our opinions, and take them for what they're worth. I haven't said it much this episode, not a lot of plugging. Again, if you shoot me an email, I've sent out a few stickers. If you shoot me an email with your name and address, we'll shoot you a sticker or two. I had a contest or something. Oh, if you send us a email, nodrivinggloves@gmail.com, with a topic suggestion that we actually use. One, we'll send you a keychain. Two, we might even invite you to be on the show to participate with a conversation on that topic. So that's a couple of things. NoDrivingGloves.com, email, links to Facebook, links to all the videos are there. All the audio podcasts are there, dropping every Friday for audio. So in case you just say you're missing a Wednesday night episode and you're busy or you want to catch up while you're mowing, audio episodes are out there. Just go ahead to go to, I want to say Apple Podcasts. Just go to your favorite. Just go to the website. There's a whole bunch of podcast players there. Click the one that you use on your phone and just download us every week so that we're there for you. But what is that? Like, follow, and subscribe. Pound that like button and I don't know, whatever the YouTube thing is. But I'm out of here for tonight, Derek. We'll talk to everybody next week.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, where's that end broadcast button?
Yep, that one right there.
That one. Oh, what? I wanted to do this. I like that graphic.
Play us off.
Oh, I should do the music then too, shouldn't I? There we go.
Yeah.
NoDrivingGloves.com.